All right, okay, let's get started. Hello, good morning, and welcome to the 54th episode of Offset. I'm Ryan Selvy, and this is the show where we bring on artists and we interview them about their process, their work, their inspiration, and any other questions that you might have. And we take them from the chat and we throw them all over to the artists and we ask them different questions, have fun little segments, and we're really glad to have you here. We are streaming live to both YouTube and Behance, but we try our best to make the replayability of this whole thing so that everyone can enjoy it, even if you weren't available when we ended up streaming it live. So hello to everyone that is in the chat right now. So hello to Wade and Sean, Alex. Thank you guys for being here. If you put your comments in YouTube or Behance, I will be sure to hop them on over to Justin. Today we are pleased to be joined by Justin. He is a Canadian video filmmaker, but I don't want to talk about him too much because we will hop pretty quickly into our very first segment. But without further ado, I'd love to bring in Justin. So welcome to Offset. How's it going?
Hey, I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. All right. Well, let's not waste any time and let's just hop straight on into elevator pitch. All right, Justin, we're excited to have you on the show. We're going to give you about 1 minute. I got a little fun little Pomodoro timer. And when we start, we're just going to pretend that you ran into somebody really cool in the elevator and they ask you what you do. So are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, ready, set, go.
All right. So my name is Justin Serran, originally from North Bay, Ontario. I am a video editor and motion graphics artist. I've been working professionally for the last 10 years or so in the Toronto area. And as of the last 2 years or so, I've kind of pivoted to full-time content creation. I create video editing tutorials, travel content, and anything else that sparks my interest. So I'm posting on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, anywhere you can consume content. I'm probably on there. And yeah, that's me. That's me in a nutshell. I'm not sure how much time I have left, but
yeah, you still got 30 seconds. So
30 seconds.
That's nice and concise. I mean, you don't have to fill the full minute, but
I've got one more little piece about me. So the way that I got into filmmaking originally is through skateboarding. So that's a big part of who I am. I got a camera in my hand because of skateboarding. I started editing videos because of skateboarding. And the first type of content I actually made was skateboarding videos. So that's another big part of me that kind of goes hand in hand with the filmmaking.
Well, I'm excited to talk about that in just a little bit too, about some of your inspiration. And I know we're going to be talking about actually someone who deals with also skateboarding. But so do you still skateboard?
Yep, to this day. Yep, it's a little bit harder on the body now that I'm getting a little bit older. But yeah, still, especially when it's warm out. Obviously, I'm from Canada. It is snowing outside, so it kind of makes it impossible to skateboard. But
do you snowboard in the winter?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Board sports are my thing. I grew up in the snow, obviously, so snowboarding's big for me as well.
Yeah. Did you ever break a bone?
I did, but not skateboarding. Well, I've broken bones skateboarding, but actually I broke my femur when I was 6 years old. So I had like a freak accident at school, but nothing related to skateboarding, which is funny. You would think it would be the other way around. But yeah, I spent 6 months in a body cast and then some time in a wheelchair. So
whoa, okay. All right. Well, sorry, didn't mean to bring up so much trauma.
It's all good, man. I think it's just an interesting story. I've definitely healed and moved past it. It was a long time ago.
Oh, well, glad to hear that you're back on your feet. And yeah, I hope you get to hit the slopes this week or, sometime because it's starting to snow.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's hop on into our next segment, which is Let's Look at Your Work. Let's look at your work. All right, so you have a flurry of videos online, and they're all very helpful. It's actually, I found yours through, I think, one of these first ones, but we have AI video generation, but we don't have time to watch all of the full ones, but I wanted to at least kind of show a little beginning start of it. So let's check this one out. See. Go up and cue it up. Hopefully you can hear it.
You know what AI generative fill can do for your static video clips like this one? Sure, we can change the surrounding environments, but if I'm being honest, I'm not sure these tripod shots are fooling anyone. So here are 4 ways you can really bring your AI generated videos to life to go from this to this. Now, a special thank you to today's sponsor, Motion Elements, but more about that in a moment. Now, the first thing we can do to bring our AI generated videos to life is motion track our AI generations to moving footage. So for example, I have this video of this photographer here shooting a landscape, but I want to add a tall building in the distance using AI. So I have my clip in my Premiere Pro sequence and the playhead at the very beginning. I'm gonna export that very first frame and save it as a TIFF file. From there, I'm gonna open up the exported frame in Photoshop. Now, make sure you have the most recent version of Photoshop so you have the AI capabilities. So from here, I can use my lasso tool to decide where I want to add my AI generation. Now, once I'm happy with my AI building, I'm going to save this as a PSD file. Next, I'm going to open up my video footage and Photoshop file in an After Effects composition. Just make sure your Photoshop file is on the layer above your video footage in your After Effects composition. Now, mask around the AI generated building to reveal the video footage underneath. Now, with your video clip selected, go to your tracker tab and hit track motion. Next, make sure.
All right, I'm gonna cut it off there. But no, have you ever like found yourself like wanting to be an educator, or like wanting to be like a teacher in a teaching sense, or is this kind of something that you kind of just fell into?
Honestly, no. If you would have asked me probably when I was younger, I probably would have said that's not at all the direction I want to take. But I think just through learning on my own and like being a student of YouTube, I started falling into, that was the content I started watching. So naturally, when I started thinking about making content, I was like, well, this is the kind of the content I enjoy making anyways. So it kind of stemmed from that. But early on, I never really had the idea of I want to teach people how to do things. It was more about I want to make the best videos possible, get them in front of people. And it just kind of naturally progressed to me. The more I learned, the more I wanted to share with my audience and try and provide value. Just so I guess the whole industry can kind of grow when people are sharing what they know as opposed to gatekeeping, I feel like. So
Gatekeeping your education.
Yeah.
Already in the chat, Sean was like, what? I was so into that. And I know we have so many really great things to show you today with Justin, and I want to make sure we have time to get through all of them. So it's even more of a good reason and plug to go ahead and follow him on YouTube. Just at Justin Serran Digital, and you'll be able to get access to all of these videos and even more, because there's a bunch of stuff that's both educational and entertainment. I do want to hop into the next example that we have, which is Mexico's Lost World. Do you kind of want to cue this one up and tell us a little bit what it's about?
Yeah, for sure. So fun story. My girlfriend is actually born and raised in Mexico. So over the last couple of years, we've spent quite a bit of time traveling all over the country. And very recently, I guess within the last year, we were in Tulum and we got to experience all the Mayan ruins. And I'm definitely someone who, when I travel, I love to kind of document the entire thing. I find it's like a video, like photo album almost. So I have like years of all my like travels just documented. And this is another case of that. But yeah, just beautiful culture, beautiful scenery. And I did my best to capture it. So I hope you guys enjoy it.
All right, let's check it out. We'll give it a good play. And we're going to tease it again right there.
Perfect.
That way people can go and watch the full thing, so you get the views out of it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Don't want to rob you of your views because we're showing it on here.
I appreciate it.
One thing that I have one shot in particular that I want to ask you about. and it's the one where you are on the back of the moped here or
Yep.
whatever.
Four-wheeler, I believe it was.
I know how technically you can do that Jaws shot. I forget what it's called, the dolly or whatever. Where you have to like go backwards and zoom in at the same time. But obviously you are right behind her. How'd you pull this one off?
I believe with that one, I kind of had my legs sort of wrapped around the four-wheeler like you would. And as I'm pulling back with my camera, I added a post zoom when I was editing. So I just keyframed the scale upwards as I'm pulling backwards. So you get this sort of dolly effect.
Oh, it's so cool. And it's so subtle. It's so quick. I love the choice of music that you have for this one. It's not what you would necessarily first expect. It feels, very cinematic. I love that, you don't. I feel like a big issue with a lot of travel photography and videography is people like to throw so much at you and like don't give you time to digest it.
100%.
You're giving a lot, but you also give each shot its time in the sun,
Yeah, for sure.
Now, when you're filming out on vacation, do you feel like that ever inhibits your time to experience it? Or do you feel like it adds to it and you experience it more because you're thinking about shots to get?
I think a little bit of both. Maybe in the moment, I'm maybe sort of elsewhere, just planning my shots. But I definitely, it's not like I'm filming the entire time. I'm usually very intentional with the shots I want to get, so I can bang them out in whether it's an hour or something, and I can enjoy another hour. But yeah, overall, it doesn't take too much away from the experience. And like I said, I can go back on it years later, and I have like edited movies that I kind of get to relook at, and I think that's a little bit more exciting for me, at least, and than a photo would be. So
oh, absolutely. I mean, it gives the whole experience of the entire trip and like through your eye, which is really nice.
100%.
So we have one more, which is your music video editing reel.
Sure.
And this one's actually pretty short, so we can probably watch this one all the way through. But do you want to also give this one kind of a serve up?
Yeah, for sure. So with this, for a long time, probably about 5 years ago was when I was most into it. I was working a lot on music videos, a lot in the Toronto hip hop scene. I still do a bit of video editing for a couple directors in the city. I've kind of stepped away from it for just personal reasons, but that was a huge part of my life. And that's where I think I grew so much as an editor, because I was just doing so much editing in different styles. And a lot of music video is just kind of trying to be creative in a sense, as opposed to sort of telling a narrative. So I think a lot of my technical abilities came from that era of my career, and something I hold very dear to me now that I don't get to do it too much anymore. So it's always fun to look back on.
Well, let's take a look back on memory lane then, down to your hip hop days.
Yeah.
Well done.
Thank you.
I could definitely see some inspiration, specifically in this one, with skateboarding, especially the clicks of the camera and like the quick shots, because I feel like you always see that. especially in succession, especially from like skateboard magazines where they used to have like all the different
like the 9-frame sequences of a trick.
Yeah.
Honestly, I never even kind of thought about it, but it's very possible that just kind of idea or that aesthetic is in my mind from early skateboarding videos and magazines, because now that you say that, it does make a lot of sense.
Wade is in the chat saying nice flow with some of those jump cuts. Alex Blank says this looks so amazing. Wade also says dollar bills, y'all.
Yeah.
Which just goes to show where we're at.
Yeah.
But
appreciate you guys.
Thank you for showing us all of your work. That gives us just some context for us to hop into some other segments that we have.
For sure.
I would love to actually take the next about 5-10 minutes and we can hop into our 20 quick questions.
Sure.
20 quick questions. So this is just a bit of like a few like rapid fire kind of esque questions that we have to kind of get to know you. They're not supposed to be any like surprise, like crazy hard ones or anything. But feel free to add to whatever. We try to sometimes stick to the 20, but other times I end up asking more questions. So I'm sorry in advance.
Ask away.
But number one, shoot in vertical or crop later?
Crop later.
How many monitors do you use?
Depending on the day, 1 or 2.
Okay. What's the most productive hour of the day?
2 p.m.
Okay. Fueled by coffee or fueled by tea?
Coffee.
And here's a follow-up question that says it's always 21 questions because I always ask this question. Do you put anything in your coffee?
Just milk. 2 milk.
Just milk? 2%?
Well, 2 milk is like a Tim Hortons thing. It's like 2 servings of milk. But just typically milk goes in my coffee.
Tim Hortons, yeah, we're speaking to a true Canadian right now.
Yes, sir.
Cross the border and get to go to Sheetz or Wawa. Wawa's better, but that's a whole different thing. Which do you like more, linear or non-linear edits?
Non-linear.
Ooh, okay. What's your most overused effect?
Right now, it's Vine booms.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm using a lot. I'm doing quite a bit of editing for YouTubers, and it's pretty predominant in what I'm editing right now.
The hot one right now.
Yeah.
What effect do you actively avoid using?
That's a good one. Honestly, crossfades. I don't typically crossfade anything too much. I like just cut unless there's a very specific reason for the crossfade.
Yeah, and that's actually the same answer as the other video editor that we had on earlier this week, which is
fun. Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Green screen or rotoscope?
Green screen.
Was a piece of client feedback you hear too much?
It's perfect, but
that hurts me.
Yeah.
Short form or long form?
Long form.
Saturated or muted color grading?
Probably saturated, but it honestly depends on what the project was.
Yeah, on the vibe. How many unread emails do you have in your inbox?
I'm assuming under 3. I usually am very good at checking them and deleting them if I don't need it. I've got 2 right now, and they've come in since the live stream started. So.
Oh wow. Okay. Good on you. That's way lower than mine, but we don't have to interview me, so we're fine. What's the best background noise for work?
If I can't have complete silence, I'll usually throw on some white noise on YouTube, one of those like 3-hour-long videos or something.
Yeah, as long as they don't have a mid pre-roll ad or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you use removable storage, cloud storage, or just your hard drive?
I work off a hard drive and cloud storage.
Rather edit alone or edit with a team?
I'm going to say both, because whatever I seem to be doing more of, I kind of long for the other one.
That makes sense. One long project or a bunch of tiny projects?
If I'm editing, probably a bunch of tiny projects.
This is also aside from how often do you how long do you last working on one edit for one of your own YouTube channel videos?
Like how long will it take me roughly?
Yeah.
I'll probably get a rough cut done in the first day, and then I'll spend another maybe half day or a day depending on the video just polishing it up.
So you all do it like within a week, like you'll probably shoot it and then edit it and get it out within that 1 week.
I would say.
Very interesting. I feel like they take weeks when just looking at your production of them, it seems like there's so much behind it.
They're actually usually pretty quick to turn around.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's good to have. Favorite art class you ever took?
I took an intro to motion graphics in my first year of college, and I think that was probably the class I learned the most from ever.
And that's did you have any idea that you would be into motion graphics before that, or did you just take it because it was available?
Well, I was like a video editor by trade going into college, but I took an interactive multimedia program. So there was just like different elements of production. So there was motion graphics, graphic design, and I never really thought too much past video editing. But then when the motion graphics kind of came along, I had a little bit of experience in After Effects just from speed ramping things in skateboarding. So
Right.
I was familiar with the layout of the program. So I felt a little bit more confident than some of my peers. And I guess that kind of pushed me to sort of dig deeper into the motion graphics.
Yeah, right on.
Mm-hmm.
Keyboard shortcuts or menu navigation?
Shortcuts.
Voiceover narration or text overlays?
I think voiceover for the most part.
And then last one, edit chronologically first or key scenes first?
Probably key scenes.
Key scenes. All right, on. Well, we made it through pretty quickly. And it's always interesting to kind of just get a sense of your personality and how things work.
Mm-hmm.
One thing you did bring up was the speed ramping for learning After Effects. So I think it'd be a really good time to actually hop into some of your inspirations, and we can have a little bit of art talk.
Let's do it.
Right. So you mentioned Ty Evans.
Yep.
And do you want to just talk a little bit about him and why you're interested in his work?
Yeah. So Ty Evans is a skateboarding videographer or just videographer, filmmaker at this point. I believe he's from the Los Angeles area. If not, that's where he's been operating out of. At the start of the interview, I obviously talked about how much skateboarding meant to me and how it was sort of a catalyst for me getting into things that are creative. And with Ty Evans, he put out the first skateboarding video I remember seeing that really had an emphasis on video production. It wasn't just about capturing the tricks. It was about like selling this whole experience as a video. And that video was fully flared. And that literally shaped my entire childhood. Like, I think it came out when I was probably 14. And then I spent the next 5 years of my life just trying to replicate that with all my skateboarding videos. And then what also happened around that same time with that same video that Ty put out was they dropped an accompanying documentary called The Final Flare. And that sort of piqued my interest on creating documentaries, which then I ended up going on in my final year of high school. I made a documentary it was basically a ripoff of Ty Evans' documentary, but it ended up going on to win like my local film festival. And that was kind of what pushed me to being like, oh, I could actually probably do this full time. So it's kind of like, it was just like that spark that started it all for me. And it was a perfect combination of the skateboarding and then the filmmaking and then just him putting them together in a way that was just like mind blowing to me. Like, you'll see some of the examples, like the use of pyrotechnics and like high frame rate cameras. It just wasn't being done. Like at that time, everyone was filming on a Sony VX, which is like a little handheld camera that was like developed for Desert Storm because it was so rugged. Right.
Right.
So it lent itself really nice to skateboarding. But then I just remember seeing Ty come along and just, I mean, he had videos before like Girl Yeah Right and stuff where they were always ahead of their time. But this was just for me, like the perfect package in terms of skateboarding. So
no, it's cool. The pyrotechnics come in here in just a minute. Yep, right there. He just went through a wall. It looks like.
He just burst through the wall there. I think it's like a foam wall, but the whole thing is just like they're skating spots that look kind of just like you would see them in the streets, but then they're rigged up. So like you'll see someone nose grinds an electrical box here and then the side blows up, or it just made me realize that's like skateboarding videos are supposed to be one thing, but like there's no limit on the creativity of where you can take them. Like you could break the mold completely and just do something different and it's still a skate video at the end of the day. So
no, it's always really cool to kind of see that on-ramp of I don't know, creatives coming from skateboarding, because I think that there's always that one friend in any skateboard group that wants to be the one that documents it, that wants to get into film. And I think that it's a very common thing for people to kind of have that, I don't know, that connection. What were you originally shooting on when you were getting into filming? Were you just kind of going, because at that point you said everyone's Sony, but I'm assuming you didn't buy a super expensive camera to begin with.
No, I picked the first thing I picked up was one of those old JVC camcorders that like my family had for just documenting birthdays and stuff. One of those little digital ones that would take like the mini DV tapes, and then you'd need like a separate capture camera so you didn't mess up the heads on that one. But yeah, then I upgraded to a Canon GL1. For anyone who was skateboarding around that time, they probably know that camera. And then I finally got the Sony VX1 sometime in high school, which I used for the next 4 or 5 years. But I would love to get my hands on one of those again. Like they're few and far between to find now because they're so old. But
Well,
something
funny
about
how that comes around, right? Like I
right,
go to
yeah,
concerts now and people are like holding up like Nintendo DSs to like
yeah,
film the low quality of it. And I'm just like,
exactly,
this is so weird because
yeah,
for so long we were trying to pretend we weren't shooting on this low quality equipment.
yeah,
And now we're all like going back to the low quality equipment.
yeah. It's that nostalgic feel, I think.
But even also with these, this is obviously shot on a nicer camera, but I love the color grading on all of it because it feels very hot. Like
Yeah,
it's
very
very
warm.
warm, very black, very it works well with all the explosions, you know.
Yeah, 100%. I think that might have just been like the vibe back then because I remember everything, especially that was shot on VXs. It always seemed really warm. Like I remember I had a buddy who would just put it on like sunny mode, no matter what
Yeah,
what
no matter
the
where it
temperature
was.
was outside, and everything would just be super orange. And he's just like, I love the warm colors. So it
Well,
might
I
have
love
just
the
been like
idea
a
of
fad
sunny
thing.
mode too, you know, like
Yeah,
oh, this is shot professionally on sunny mode.
yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, we were kids at that point, but
Wade is saying if you don't land this correctly, you might explode.
yeah, there's a whole behind the scenes of how they filmed this intro, and there was a lot of precautions they had to take because this shot right here specifically, good timing. Mike Mo does his switch flip, and he did it one try. And he did it in the first try because they didn't really have much flexibility with schedule because you'll see they're about to blow up the whole sets. But just to do something that technical on a skateboard first try, with knowing that the sets are gonna blow up behind you, is like unreal. So
That's that. Oh man, that could have gone wrong
yeah,
so easily. But like, it's also such a young teenage boy kind of adolescent. Like, yeah,
yeah,
we'll just blow it up. It'll be
yeah,
fine. Like,
yeah. It's just very
whatever.
skater
Cool
die.
skateboarding.
Yeah, exactly.
That said, awesome shot.
Oh
Very
yeah.
cool.
Mm.
Also leads me to believe. I guess they probably made the whole set and made like fake graffiti on all of it. I guess.
Yeah, I think it was just sort of an abandoned lot from what I remember from the behind the scenes, and they kind
Mhm.
of built everything as they needed it, and then rigged it up with pyrotechnics and stuff.
Mike is saying he had a camera that recorded to VHS tapes. I remember actually
wow.
having a camera with VHS.
Wow.
And then we would have to like rewind it and then record over things to have a cut. But then like that was it.
Yeah.
You got rid of the shot. It's gone. Kids will never know.
No.
And then the one other thing is like thinking about skateboarding and how so often you kind of were just touching on this is so often like the last shot that you see is when a skateboarder has done the same trick like 8 times and they splice it together or they just get the one that has the real shot.
Mm.
It's really crazy with all those exploding like that they were like, all right, you got to land you got to land the trick.
Pretty much, yeah. And I think it kind of shows like the difficulty of things because some of the takes the people are falling, right? So they couldn't reshoot it. So as much as they were professionals, there's still room for error and stuff like that.
It is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But also, you sent over the final flare. Do you want to talk a little bit about this?
Yeah, for sure. We don't have to watch too much about it. It's basically the documentary that went along with the skate video I was just talking about. It's kind of about the making of it, and they just kind of go into sort of at that time in skateboarding. This skate video was considered revolutionary, and it was being billed as the next biggest thing. And it just kind of became because it had like all the top guys at the time.
Right.
And it just became this really big thing where it was like had so much hype leading up to it. And then like anything, if you've got that much hype, there's like all this pressure to live up to it. So I think that's kind of what the documentary talks about.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love that. I love seeing a product and then seeing the behind the scenes of what actually took to make it. And I think that's probably how I even got into production, to be honest, because even when I was a kid, I remember watching like DVDs and then I would go into the bonus section and then I would watch the behind the scenes stuff and then I'd watch the commentary of it. So I guess like it's just in my genes that I wanted to learn how things were made. And this, I guess, is where it took me.
It's always funny looking back on stuff like
from
with that lens of like knowing it's something that you later got really interested in and be like, oh wait, I was always interested in this thing. Like it's always there. It's just manifested in different ways.
100%.
I personally even remember playing Tony Hawk Underground, and you had to make a skate tape at one point.
Yep.
And
sponsor tape.
I loved that section. And then even when you were like selecting a sponsor, they like showed all the different tapes.
Yep.
Like like Girl Skateboards or whatever, and then you'd have to pick who you wanted to like sign with. it was such a cool and I don't know, not niche because it was so popular, but it's a very specific like.
Very.
Now, do kids still make a bunch of skate videos? I feel like I don't see them, but maybe it's just because I grew up. I don't know.
Yeah, they do. I would say it's a little bit more niche now, but it's also gone a little bit more kind of broad. So it's not as much of a tight knit culture. Like you still have that tight knit like what's the word, like cult following sort of, but you know, with skateboarding in the Olympics and stuff, it's just becoming so big now. And with the emergence of social media, the skate video doesn't mean nearly as much. So there is skate videos still coming out. Like, you know, if you go to Thrasher magazine on YouTube, they're still dropping videos here and there, but a lot of it has become, you know, kids are just posting to social media, and that's becoming, there's this new generation of kids who are influencers, like skateboarding influencers, as opposed to professional skateboarders, if that makes sense.
That's such a funny concept. I mean,
yeah, it's different.
it is the world we live in. And then this very last one that you wanted to do was this trailer for We Are Blood.
Yeah.
And then do you want to talk a little about this?
For sure. So this is another piece of Ty Evans' work. It's a little bit more modern, so you'll see the quality is just a little bit more HD, but just kind of shows the progression of where his careers went from those earlier videos that like got me really into it as a kid. And then I think this one's still probably about 8 years old, but it just kind of shows how far you can take skateboarding if you've got a vision or just anything really. It doesn't have to be skateboarding, but you can make content around the thing that you care about. And Ty's just a great example of that. Like this whole video, they're on top of skyscrapers in Dubai. They're flying helicopters, all to get these crazy little skateboarding tricks, which seem so insignificant to people who don't skateboard, but it just becomes this whole big thing to these guys, and they just showcase it in a really, really great way.
No, well said. Very cool. And definitely everyone check them out. A lot of these are available right on YouTube, but I'm guessing this probably full thing is probably available somewhere for streaming.
Yeah, I think it's online to purchase somewhere. It's a little older, so you'd probably have to do a bit of digging, but it's worth a watch if you're interested.
I know what I'll be doing this weekend. My fiance will be like, "Why are you watching skateboard videos?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's fine." Another place that I find a lot of my inspiration, I feel like this is something that kind of goes back to when we're looking at your work, was also I love the attention to music videos that people have, and a lot of people seem to overlook the idea of like the cuts. And I feel like there's a lot of parallels between music videos and skateboard videos, because like the content in it is either the skateboarding or the song, but then the people who are interested in video editing will notice like the crazy cuts that they have or the weird things that they have that kind of swirl around to get the shot. And I don't know, I just see a lot of parallels, which is cool to see.
Yeah, 100%. A lot of parallels there.
Now this obviously takes a lot of work, and there's like a lot of that goes into it, but a lot of times you can lose your inspiration, you can lose what gets you passionate. So I'd love to do our segment about burnout. So what do you do when you are getting into a rut and you are feeling the burnout, you're feeling the creative block, or you're just not feeling it?
Well, for me, burnout usually looks like my brain just kind of stops working. Tasks that could be as easy as importing, you know, a clip into a project, my brain just stops working, and that's how I know it's time to at least take a break. But for me, I don't want to make this all about skateboarding, but I just fall back on my hobbies that I love, like the things that I've always done that never felt like work. And as much as I love what I do, it can still feel like work sometimes. So I tend to fall back on things that have never felt like work to me, which is skateboarding. Obviously, if it's summertime, snowboarding in the winter, and then I play volleyball, or I try to play volleyball year round. And then just working out, you know, it's just about staying active and just finding things that you like to do just to do, not because there's a dollar amount attached to them or you think it's going to get you somewhere.
Yeah, I feel like also sometimes a rut that people fall into too is like they try to monetize every hobby. So then by the time that they're like in a rut, they're trying to do one of their hobbies and you're like, oh, well, that's also work. So I think like, having a sport or something is always nice, because you're like, I'm not going to go pro on volleyball. Like,
exactly.
That's not going to happen.
I realized early on I wasn't going pro at skateboarding. So I think that's probably why I was like, hey, no, it's all good. It's all good. It was never a goal of mine really, but I'm glad it just led me to where I am now.
Right. All right. Well, then also I would love to do something that we like to do is we look back on where you used to be and where you are now. And we have a segment that we're called From This to That.
From this to that.
So the first thing that we have up here is 5 things I wish I knew when I started making music videos tutorial. And this was uploaded 4 or 5 years ago. Do you want to speak to it before we take a look at it?
Yeah, for sure. I just thought it was a cool way to kind of gauge, where I started with the YouTube tutorial stuff versus something more similar. I think the recent example is going to be pretty similar to the one that we saw earlier, but it's just funny with the older things. Like, I'm proud that I did it, but I'm looking back now. I'm like, this shot's out of focus. Like, the audio sounds terrible. I don't know where my standard was. I think I was just like, I want to get this out, and it doesn't matter. So it's just cool to look back and reflect on how much you've grown.
Yeah, sure. It's always hard to look at your own work, but it's important,
For sure. What's up, YouTube? Welcome to my very first tutorial on the Visual Boulevard channel. My name's Justin, and I'm basically going to be trying to upload 2 videos a week from now on, mostly tutorials. Obviously, all of my original content will still be here. I think it's a good way to build a fan base. I haven't really given a lot of effort to my YouTube other than uploading other videos that I've made for other platforms, whether it's Instagram or just music videos in general for artists. So I think this will be a really good way for me to grow as a creative, but also put out consistent content, which will help me grow as an artist as well. So yeah, like I said, I'm going to be trying to do consistent tutorials, video breakdowns, music video reviews, and pretty much anything else I can think of, maybe some gear review, but that'll all kind of come along as I kind of grow with the channel more. But
now this is crazy because it's
good time.
Of course it goes straight into that. Like this is so interesting because also it's your production value of even your talking heads has seemed to have been really changed. Like I guess this is probably even before you had like a ring light or something. Like, what do you use for like lighting now? Like, how do you?
I've got an Aperture 300D that I use now, but at this point, it was probably like a newer little panel light, and I was probably using like one of the practical lights in my old apartment. Like, I didn't have much going on at that time.
But it's also cool to hear you like be like, yeah, I'm hoping that this really helps me like explore this and create content. And I mean, look at you now, like 4 or 5 years later, like. It obviously the channel is blown up. Like it obviously did exactly what it was supposed to do. And I don't know, it's kind of cool seeing your past self.
Yeah, I've been very fortunate. I actually, when I was looking for this example, I probably hadn't watched that video since I released it. So it was pretty cool just to hear me talking about. I don't even think I knew where I really wanted to take my channel at that point. I'm not saying I have a crazy vision for where I'm going to go now, but it's just cool to see the growth over the last 4 or 5 years, and just knowing that like I had the idea in my head and I was able to stick to it and execute it to some degree. So
no, well said. And then I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to pull up the one that you sent on over most recently. And it's the 3 new ways to use Photoshop AI video effects in your next edit.
Yep.
And you have this format that we also saw previously with the first one that we looked at with the snow and the background, but kind of you standing center screen and like have a hook. It's interesting to see how you have like found a good formula for catching the viewer, and they feel like they have a very clear format to them, whereas like the other one you started with a kind of like, this is a thing letting weekly videos, like here's my logo, and this one is kind of like you're hopping straight on into it. So let's just watch the first few seconds of this guy.
You can use Photoshop's AI generative fill tool in your next video edit. Maybe you just want to change the location you're in like this. Or maybe you want some limitless zoom capabilities like this. Hey, I'm over here. Or maybe you want to do something as simple as turning your horizontal clips into something vertical for social media like this. Now, whatever your need is, I'm here to explain it to you. So let's talk about it. So the first thing we're going to need to do is download Photoshop Beta as the AI generative fill tool.
All right. So we're going to hop in. We're going to display actually in the background as we talk if you'd like. But
sure.
One thing that I'm immediately noticing, I know we talked a little bit about the quality of your talking heads. They've increased. Also the fun that you're having with it. You definitely feel more of your personality in this one. And then also it's just like there's so much more happening on screen. You have the subtitles, you have the call outs, you're showing the final product and then swimming back in. You're putting yourself in the corner in little circles. So obviously a lot has changed, all for the better. But what do you feel like has remained the same since the one that we kind of looked at first and then where we are now?
That's a good question. I think probably just my overall intent. Like I just want to share things that, I wish I had learned sooner. And as soon as I learn them, I want to share them with my audience and whoever else wants to learn them, because that's how like I said, I grew up. I did go to film school, but honestly, the most of the stuff I've learned technically anyways has been from YouTube or learning from other editors. So I'm just kind of trying to do my part and share it forward. And I think that was the same intent I had with the early videos versus now. So.
Yeah. And also a question for when you're out here standing in fields, are you having your girlfriend film you, or are you just going out with a tripod? Like what's that? Are you mostly by yourself or are you with someone else?
Typically my girlfriend helps me film this stuff. Yeah. I usually try and hire her as best as I can. Obviously she's great for doing stuff if there's no budget, but I always try and hire her on to film these videos when I can. And obviously sometimes I film by myself, but I've had too many reshoots when I'm doing that by myself. So I'd rather have someone behind, at least monitoring audio or something like.
Yeah, I mean, because that's the thing that can ruin it. Like, it's always like such a hard learning curve is the idea that like, yeah, you can make the best video ever, but if the audio is gone, like people will not give it the time of day. They will just so quickly drop it.
Yeah.
What do you feel like you've kind of learned in between these two? Is there anything that like you kind of took for granted at the beginning that now you have to really pay a lot more attention to?
Yeah, for sure. I think you kind of touched on it without even touching on it. It's just my new edits are just so much more built for retention. Like there's so much more there to grab your attention. I'm instantly getting into the hook. I'm showing you why you're there within the first 5 seconds. And that's just not something that was very prominent on YouTube, especially when I made that first one. Like there wasn't a Mr. Beast going around doing podcasts telling you retention, like hook them in the first 3 seconds. So I was just kind of talking away to my camera because at that time in YouTube, it was a little bit more like that. Like obviously there was people doing bigger things than that, but I think that's probably what's changed the most between the two edits is just more things based on more editing retention, essentially.
Yeah, and that's something we were actually kind of talking about before we went live was the idea of like how YouTube has been this organic thing that has changed over the years, and both like the style of videos have changed industry wide, but also kind of the community has changed and features have changed. And it's so interesting to even just see within a small period of time that you look at the one that was 4 years ago and you're like, yeah, that's what all YouTube videos used to look like. Like that's everything we were watching. But now we're like, everyone has upped their game and everyone has, really brought it to this next level. So it's very interesting to be able to quantify that and see it. And
sure.
It's also really cool to see you grow. Where do you think it'll be in the next 4 years?
That's a good question. My goal has always been to get a silver plaque button. So if I can hit 100K within the next 4 years, I think based on Social Blade, I'm due to do that within the next year, which would be super exciting. But honestly, that's been my goal since I started YouTube. So until I hit that, that's my goal. I'm just trying to hit 100K, get that plaque, and then I'll reassess things.
Can I tell you something? A funny personal anecdote about one of those.
Sure.
There was it was maybe 2021. So it was like COVID was still kind of happening. I think vaccines were finally out, but I went into the lobby of my building and I saw on the ground in a cardboard box a package from YouTube that was the size of one of the plaques.
Oh yeah.
And it was just laying on the lobby floor. And I was like, I know what that is. Like that's not something that should just be at the bottom of it. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to see whoever this is.
Yeah.
And I went and I knocked on this girl's door and she opened it. And I was like, I think I know what this is. And this is just laying in the lobby. Like this is yours, right? And we're really good friends now. She's my neighbor, but she now goes back to it and she's like, oh, like I thought you were someone from YouTube. Like I thought you were someone like hand delivering this plaque to me. And like, no, unfortunately it was way less ceremonious than we were kind of looking for.
That's hilarious. I wish someone would show up when my plaque shows up with like white gloves, like on a silver platter, like here you go. But
yeah, no, right.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Maybe by the time we get to 100,000 for you, or not 100,000. What is silver?
Silver's 100,000.
I thought you had 100,000.
Well, on YouTube I'm only at 30,000. On TikTok I'm at 100 something, and then Instagram I'm almost at 200. So
I mean, those are all fantastic numbers, though, right?
Yeah,
like
for sure.
That is so remarkable. Like who knew? Like within 4 years that you'd be able to get to something like that so quickly.
Yeah, exactly. super
which is
critical.
obviously a testament to your talent. Like that, it takes a lot of hard work, takes a lot of grinding. But yeah, no, I'm totally confident you'll get to that 100,000 and you'll get that silver plaque. You'll have to let us know when you do.
Will do, man. I'll post a video update.
What we'll also have to do for this is we have this new segment where we have the previous guest ask the next guest a question, and then you're going to ask the next question for the next guest.
Sure.
And it's called Go Figure. Next question.
Next question.
So we don't actually really give much context to the people in between these questions. So it's kind of like a blind. I won't tell you who asked it. I won't tell you who you're asking, which makes for even more fun questions. But this one was a little bit more specific on material. And so if you could only use one material for the rest of your like creation period in your edits or in your work, what material would you use? Which is tough because your video, which is different. You can tell it came from a designer.
Yeah, I'm kind of like materials. If I could only use one specific material.
One specific material. I guess you could also switch it to like equipment also. One piece of equipment.
Oh, okay. One piece of equipment has got to be my laptop.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, if I'm editing, because then I can take it wherever I am. I edit a lot on the go, and I like to try and travel as much as I can because everything I do is remote. So my laptop definitely is my most important piece of equipment. Or
what kind of laptop do you have?
I've got a MacBook Pro M2.
Oh, you have the M2, and you like the M2?
Yeah. It does everything I need.
Yeah, I basically have heard, and this is Ryan Selvy talking, not Adobe.
Mm-hmm.
But I've heard that with the M2s, you don't even have to upgrade to the M3s because like the M2s are just so insane that like you won't even notice a difference because they're so strong.
I haven't heard that, but it sounds about right because I've got no complaints with this thing.
I've heard that people throw whatever they want and it always works. Also, yeah, there are people in the chat talking about my cat attack. Sorry about that. Just wanted to make a quick appearance, steal the show. Also, earlier there was a question in the chat about if I have ever skateboarded, and I can tell you that I tried and I never got an ollie down. So definitely can't do a kickflip for you, Wade. But maybe later in life. Maybe it's in my 30s. This is the decade for me. I'll just go and start making skate vids.
Late in life skate videos, yeah.
All right, so we only have a few minutes left, and we have a few other segments that we could hop into. I think one that could be really fun could be what's in your sketchbook.
Ooh, what's in your sketchbook?
Now, obviously, Sketchbook is a... Oh, wait, before we even do that, I have to ask you what question you're going to ask for the next guest.
Very true. I did have one.
Yeah. What question do you want to ask the next guest?
It's funny because you actually pretty much answered it just randomly when we were talking earlier, but it's what's more important, quality video or quality audio?
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Quality video or quality audio. Perfect. But yeah, anyway, sketchbooks. Sorry about that.
No.
For sketchbooks, obviously, it's a loose term, especially as a video editor and filmmaker. It's just kind of a way for us to kind of see behind the curtain and see your process and what's working in your brain.
Sure.
And you said that you had some stuff that you could share. What would you like to share for your sketchbook?
So I just have a sort of a little short form content schedule that just kind of keeps me accountable. And then I've kind of got like a checklist of all the ones that I've scripted that are ready to be filmed. So I can go ahead and show you guys that. It's nothing too revolutionary. It's really just a thing on my notes app. But I guess
I mean, all this stuff is never that revolutionary.
Exactly.
It's mostly just like people find the weirdest way to organize their thoughts and their process. And even if it's the biggest budget things, it still can come down to like a notes app.
Exactly. So I guess I can go ahead and press present here. Share my screen. Sweet. Share screen.
Also, while you're doing that, Alex Bank wants to know, what is some advice you would give yourself when you started?
Sorry, before I answer that, can you see my screen here now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, sweet. Sorry, re-ask that question.
What is some advice you would give yourself when you started?
I would say just keep doing things for your own personal satisfaction. Don't necessarily chase trends too much, and avoid looking at comments too much because they can get kind of toxic out there. And no one needs to be reading that the stuff that they pour their life into is not that good consistently.
Just from some random YouTuber comment as well.
Exactly.
So it's
Yeah.
could easily be an 11-year-old that has decided they had a bad day.
Exactly.
All right, so I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna share your screen and let us know what we're looking at.
Yeah, for sure. So just let me know when you can see it.
Well, we can see it.
Okay, sweet. So yeah, so basically
we're actually, I think, looking at ourselves right now.
Give me a second here then.
We are within YouTube.
Okay,
we're looking a little bit at our past selves. Oh, we have captions on. That's cool. Does it actually auto transcribe it that fast? Also, I need to smile more.
Where is it? I'm not sure it's giving me the option to even show my notes app on here.
Let's see. I don't remember the time being. Also, this is an old question that also popped up. What's the weirdest thing you've had in your fridge?
Really moldy leftovers, probably.
It's not that weird for me because it's so common.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, I'm actually having a little bit of technical difficulties on this side, just showing because it's showing me.
Oh, that's all right. That's fine. We can also just skip it as well.
Yeah.
We only have a few minutes left though, so I would love to ask for as far as New Year's goes, what would you like to leave in 2023? And yeah, well, let's just start with that.
In 2023, I think it goes back to what I was just talking about, is just leaving negative comments online, especially from people that you wouldn't necessarily even want to take their advice. With the internet, everyone's got access to be negative if they want. So
yeah,
I think leave that in 2023. I don't know. It's just
vibes.
not productive at all, and I don't think it does anyone any justice.
And then what do you have as a resolution, or what would you like to see in 2024?
I think for me, it's a little more personal. It's just giving my energy to the right people, the people that give me their best energy. I want to give it back to them.
Oh, right. Have you made a lot of connections through YouTube, and are you now kind of have a circle of editors that you talk to regularly on YouTube now?
Not necessarily from YouTube. I do have a strong network of editors just from coming up in the scene in Toronto for the last 10 years. So many people I've met. But yeah, I've got a few, especially with really going full time with YouTube recently. I've got some bigger YouTubers that I can ask for advice. I'm working with some of them, so it's really great to learn tricks of the trades like that. They've been doing it longer than me, so.
Oh, great. And then I know that you also provide assets online of different resources and stuff. Where can we find your stuff, and what are you selling? What are you giving out that's not just free on YouTube?
Yeah, so the stuff I sell is on my digital store. It's justinserran.gumroad.com. It's mostly video editing assets that are going to help you speed up your workflow process. Nothing crazy, just animated caption presets, some color grading presets, just simple things that are going to make your life easier. If you're in a pinch with your edit, you can go download some of them for super cheap, and they'll hopefully make your life a little bit easier.
Yeah, it's crazy how our relationship with volume on, volume off is such a thing now, because sometimes you're on the subway, you're watching a YouTube video and you can't have audio. Having those dynamic captions can make or break a video because
100%.
of so much. And yeah, luckily they're getting easier to make, but still it's something that I feel like too many people overlook. And it is the difference between a super high quality video and something else. So.
And it's just another one of those things, so much of editing is yeah, you can make an amazing edit, but if it takes you 10 times as long as it's supposed to, then is it that amazing? So it's just finding those ways that you can save yourself time by not needing to do work that you don't need to do. It just kind of helps you. It's almost like sometimes having an assistant editor. It just speeds things up that you don't need to be doing necessarily. So
yeah,
it's kind of my philosophy behind it.
Work smarter, not harder.
Exactly.
And then one last question to close us out. And Sean wants to know, why are stupid faces the thing on YouTube thumbnails?
I honestly, you're talking about with the mouth open, I imagine.
Yeah, I feel like that's what they all are.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter what it is. It's I talked to my mom.
Yeah. I've heard that for whatever reason, larger YouTubers speak about A/B testing, and for whatever reason, a shocked face or a negative looking face seems to do better with click-through rates. So I don't know if it's human nature. They want to see someone going through something existential or something like that, but it just seems to be the case. But I know I'm super guilty of it.
Weird.
I know.
Humans are so weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, that puts us at time. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on and walk us through all your process and your inspiration. It was really cool getting to look at all your work and seeing how far you've come. And it's just really exciting to see like where this will go moving forward. I guess we have to have another interview in 4 years to just see, and you can show us all your silver plaque. And yeah, thank you so much to Wade for putting Justin's Gumroad in the chat. Was there anything else you wanted to promote before I take you off?
No, I think that's about it. But yeah, just check me out on all social medias, Justin Serran on Instagram and TikTok, and then Justin Serran Digital on YouTube. And yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah. All right. Well, have a good one, Justin. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
All right, guys, that's it for this episode, but we will be back in just 5 minutes with Fedwa, and I'm really excited to show you her work. She's actually an old coworker of mine, and we're going to have a lot of fun, so make sure you stick around. Thank you to everyone that said hello in the chat. Thank you for all your questions. I will work on my skateboarding, and thank you, Wade, for moderating, as always. Really appreciate you. Make sure you guys stick around. There's also a bunch of replays of different Offset episodes on YouTube as well. So check that if you tuned in later or if you just want to see more. So thanks for watching, guys.